particular conversation. Former Goldman Sachs Sub-Saharan Africa CEO Colin Coleman is warning of possible social unrest if South Africa fails to address high unemployment, inequality and corruption. He says the country is nearing boiling point and is calling for urgent reforms in an article which appeared in the Sunday Times yesterday. Colin Coleman joining me now from Johannesburg. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you very much for making time for us. Let's begin with the very signs that you are warning about. What's led you to conclude that South Africa is now turning into a mafia state? And if you so believe, what are the telltale signs that we've gone beyond corruption into a criminal capture now?
Well, thanks, Julian. It's a pleasure to be on your show. I must say, listening to the president giving the award to the veteran who's turning 100 also cast my mind back to the fact that Pravin Gordhan and Tita Mbowene's anniversary of their passing has just gone by. And I must say, being close to both, I've been exercising my mind about what would they be saying to us all in South Africa today in the light of the revelations that we've seen. And so I seek guidance from their spirit in answering your question. And I must say, I'm not alone, let me just start there, in warning of an acceleration of the merging of political and criminal elements in South Africa and a variety of mafia organizations, not one single mafia, but mafia illegal criminal style organizations emerging and accelerating in South Africa on the back of unemployment, on the back of the lack of, it seems, the implementation and consequences of breaking the law, of the rule of law. And so these two problems of the lack of rule of law and the lack of economic growth and rising joblessness seems to create a fertile environment for the rise in organized crime and mafia-style organizations.
Yeah.
And I was pointed to a book, actually, that has just been published, which is written by a person by the name of Colin, whose contents of the book lists the various mafias that she then describes: the construction mafia, the cash and transit mafia, the taxi mafia, the cigarette mafia, the tanker mafia, the bouncer mafia, the Chancellor House mafia, the kidnapping mafia, the hospital mafia, the police mafia, and so on. And you would have noticed that the police minister, Feroz Kachalia, referred to concerns that South Africa could become a country in the style of Colombia.
Yeah.
And so all of these factors are producing a concern that unless we reverse the rot that we are seeing, unless we clamp down and implement the rule of law and turn the corner on the economy, there is fertile ground for these mafias to accelerate their development and organization and effectively crowd out private sector activity in South Africa. I'm happy to expand on that.
I'm very happy also that you have referenced the very live event that we have just come from, that live picture of Dr. Chulu, who is being honored, because you start your conversation with mentioning the names of those in this party, the ANC, who have now left us. Tito Mboweni, Pravin Gordhan in particular, taking a particular stance at the time that President Zuma was about to be recalled from his position as president of the country. I want to merge both the ANC and indeed the country and ask you this question as to how close are we to a point of no return, both for the ANC in terms of its image around corruption. You hear them being mentioned by people who are behind bars that they did indeed receive monies from very shady characters. And is there still a chance to fix this from within?
Yeah, look, let me just say, my family, I have come from the legacy of an ANC background. There are many people in the ANC that are great patriots, that today are wanting to do good, great public servants as well. But unless the ANC really gets serious, as President Mbeki has talked about the renewal program, unless it gets serious about renewal, it is not going to be able to reverse the rot. And South Africa will punish it if it doesn't succeed in reversing the rot.
Yeah.
And what would we want to have seen in order to say they are serious? One, many people who are veterans of the movement point to the Zondo Commission and the Zondo Commission findings, never mind what is coming out of the Madlanga Commission, and say, has there been any action on the recommendations of the Zondo Commission with respect to ANC leaders who have been compromised and who have had their fingers pointed to by the Zondo Commission as wrongdoers? And what process is underway to correct that? So unfortunately, many people look on to what is widespread corruption and see a cabinet that has many of these figures named in the Zondo Commission who are sitting there without any consequence. And so if the consequence management is not there for cabinet ministers, why would it be there for hospital managers who've mismanaged things, stolen and corrupted, the education system, the policing system, and so on? So it has to start at the top and work its way down and be widespread in order for a reversal, an authoritative, authentic reversal of and renewal to take place in the movement.
Yeah. Once again, I'm going to link part of what you've just said into my next question. And that question is South Africa's crisis that of a failure of leadership, or, as you say, the inability to take action or make sure that there are consequences for those that have done wrong? You talk about those that have been mentioned in the Zondo Commission who are in government today, or is it simply a government that is unwilling to act against its own?
I'm going to give you a surprising answer. I've said what I've said already, and you understand what I think should be done within. But I think this is a problem of all South Africans. We're in this together. We're rowing this boat together. So essentially what we need a coalition of willing patriots from business, from the unions, from civil society, good citizen, good public servants, good ANC members, good DA members, good members from all the political parties to say, we are going to recommit ourselves to clean governance. We're going to recommit ourselves to non-racial democracy, to social democratic principles where we are going to create opportunity for all. And I say that because, I think we could equally introspect in the business community and say, business has failed to share sufficiently widely the fruits of the economy amongst Black and white South Africans. We can say the government has failed to create a sufficiently vibrant economic environment for business to invest. We can say all these things, but the fact is the common enemy is the corrupt, the illegal, the untaxed, and the rising criminal organizations in our country who effectively are contaminating the environment for business to invest in South Africa. And we need the police to create an environment of safety and security for investment. And we need the government to create an environment in which business unleashes. I saw a report that there's 1.7 trillion rand of savings in corporate South Africa. and we need that money to be mobilized in order to create sufficient jobs. You know, I'm co-chairman of the Youth Employment Service. We have done well in creating 200,000 internships amongst 1,900 businesses in South Africa, creating 11.5 billion rand of salaries for these youth. But it's a drop in the ocean relative to the 12 million people who are looking for work and cannot find it. So we need to have a growth environment which creates real momentum around jobs and growth.
That growth environment you talk about, very quickly, if you can, what single reform or decision could shift South Africa from this pedestrian growth of 1% every year? For the last 15 years, this country's economy has not grown. What shift needs to happen for the country to start experiencing the growth rates that we saw back then in the Mbeki years?
Yeah. The underpinning of whatever reform is effectively that business is good for South Africa. It's good because it creates jobs, and we need investment, and we want to support a partnership between business and government that optimizes business investment and job creation. Business, for its part, needs to share the spoils and create an inclusive, democratic environment for businesses, including small businesses and micro businesses. I have been one that's called, for example, for a grant for small businesses, particularly the 2 million micro enterprises in the country that need support to grow. If you can get those to create 10 jobs each, you're going to create much more jobs than large corporate South Africa can do. So we need a partnership that says we need a vibrant economy that's job creating, and we want to get 3 to 5% growth per annum going forward in order to create an environment where we remove that fertile ground for criminality in South Africa.
Yeah. Final question, and I'm going to club these two questions in one because of time. I'm about to have a conversation with the DA who are saying BEE has failed. We need something else. Do you share in that view? But here's another one. You also have just mentioned that you are the chair of the Youth Employment Service, and you are warning of a boiling point that we could reach before the 2029 general election. What are the signs there?
Well, if you take it very simply, we have now 4 years between now, or 3.5 years between now and a scheduled election in 2029. At the current rate at which South Africa is imploding, the current rate of unhappiness, of joblessness, of criminality, of emerging scandals that we are seeing, I cannot see on the balance of probability, you know, as a banker, we talk about balance of probabilities, of risks. I cannot see an outcome where we get to that 3.5-year point without calling an early national election, because the population is likely to want to have a renewed mandate to a government that they trust. And there's been a significant breaking of trust, a significant mismanagement, lack of service delivery, lack of opportunity, which is going to produce pressure upon pressure, which I'm forecasting will produce a boiling point earlier than 2029 elections. And we have seen in Arab Spring countries conditions in retrospect that led to the Arab Spring. And I am concerned that we are seeing the warning signs of such a source of instability growing in South Africa. I'm not calling for that. What I'm calling for is people to take action now, the coalition of the willing patriots, to mobilize to prevent such an outcome. But we need to do that together with government, business, civil society, and all good actors in South Africa.
Colin Coleman, thank you very much for your time talking about a coalition of the willing. In fact, those are the European leaders who are trying to manage what is going on in Russia. So a very interesting importation of that phrase into the South African political space.